1923's Spencer Dutton reveal could explain the connection to Yellowstone's mysterious spinoff. 1923 revealed an unexpected facet of Spencer Dutton's, Brandon Schlunner, story that could explain how the Madison relates to the Yellowstone franchise's Dutton family. The Madison is Taylor Sheridan's next Yellowstone spinoff. It's a modern-day story taking place in present-day Montana. However, the Madison story will shift its focus away from the Dutton family tree and home in on the Clyburn family, led by Michelle Pfeiffer's Stacy Clyburn. With production and casting underway, the Madison might be the next Yellowstone spinoff we see after 1923's finale. The Prohibition-era Dutton saga wrapped up with a massive finish, including 1923 Season 2's finale's 5 major character deaths. One of the most significant and tragic deaths was Alex Dutton's, Julia Schlapfer, with Spencer Dutton's wife dying from complications of hypothermia after delivering her baby John. 1923's finale also reveals what happened to Spencer after he lost his soulmate. Spencer's late sister, Elsa Dutton, Isabel May, says Spencer never remarried, but had another child with a widow. Spencer's unresolved development could certainly rear its head in Yellowstone's future. Spencer Dutton fathering a second child is big news for the Yellowstone franchise. In her narration at the end of 1923 Season 2, Elsa says the following about how her younger brother processed Alex Dutton's death. Spencer never remarried. Took the comfort of a widow and made another boy. Refused to marry her, and one day the widow was gone. So Spencer actually has 2 children, Alexa's son, John, and another son by an unnamed woman. As with Elsa Dutton's other narrations in the Yellowstone franchise, this development is a prophecy of what's to come. 1923 left the identity of Spencer's mystery son unresolved. Elsa explained that Alexa's memory never faded in Spencer's mind, implying she was all he thought of, even decades after her death, before flashing to Spencer and Alexa's Titanic-style ending, where they reunite in their version of heaven. That said, Spencer's descendant could appear in another Yellowstone spinoff, potentially in the Madison. While there's a century between 1923 and the Madison, Spencer Dutton's descendant, emerging in Taylor Sheridan's next spinoff, would explain an inconsistency in the Yellowstone franchise. From what we understand, the Madison doesn't have a connection to Yellowstone, which has focused solely on the Dutton family and their endeavors through time. Taylor Sheridan's original Yellowstone series introduces John Dutton, Kevin Costner, and his children who fight for the Yellowstone Dutton Ranch in the modern era, eventually selling it to the Broken Rock tribe. Sheridan's other Yellowstone shows act as prequels, setting up Kevin Costner's series, explaining how the Dutton family navigated America after the Civil War and World War I, witnessing their journey on the Oregon Trail in 1883 and into the Great Depression in 1923. It doesn't make sense that a franchise solely dedicated to the Dutton family would completely disconnect from their story. It's possible that Spencer Dutton's descendant will emerge in the Madison, tying the story back to the Dutton family. Sheridan could be shifting to focus on how life progressed for Spencer's other descendants, now that Yellowstone Season 5, Part 2, has wrapped up the Dutton family's main story. Life would have been much different for a Dutton ancestor not benefiting from the family stewardship of the largest contiguous ranch in the United States. The Madison can potentially explore that. While Spencer's family could also appear in Taylor Sheridan's teased Yellowstone prequel that would follow 1923-1944, the Madison is a better place for the reveal since it would tie Michelle Pfeiffer's show back to the Dutton family. If that's the case, the Madison could have already cast Spencer's estranged grandchild. While the full scope of the Madison's cast remains unclear, some supporting characters could relate to Spencer. That said, I don't suppose that Spencer's descendant will be part of Michelle Pfeiffer's Cliburn family, who would move to Montana from New York after the death of their patriarch. There are 3 male actors cast in various roles in the Madison that are tied to Montana, and I believe they are the most likely to relate to Spencer. Kevin Zegers will play Cade, Stacy's neighbor and the former caretaker of her new home in Montana. The Spinoff has also cast Los Matthew Fox as Paul, described as an outdoorsy, self-reliant man. Lastly, the Madison will include Ben Schnetzer as Van, a kind rancher and Stacy's neighbor. Any of these characters could be Spencer's long-lost descendant from 1923, enriching the Yellowstone franchise and tying the Madison to the Dutton family. The sun bled through the clouds over the Dutton ranch, casting long shadows on the land that had carried generations. Time had weathered the soil, but not the secrets buried beneath it. As Yellowstone barrels toward its conclusion, and the mysterious Spinoff looms on the horizon, fans have begun to piece together the broken timeline, and all signs point to one man, Spencer Dutton. When we last saw Spencer in 1923, he was a haunted war veteran, a man of few words but many ghosts. After enduring the horrors of World War I, Spencer had found fleeting peace in Africa, only to be pulled back into the orbit of his family's legacy by a letter from his Aunt Cara. Viewers watch Spencer traverse continents and oceans to return to Montana, his heart scarred, his intentions unclear. But what if Spencer's journey didn't end where we think it did? What if his return to Yellowstone marked not just a homecoming, but the birth of a hidden chapter? That hidden chapter, some fans speculate, could be the connective tissue to Yellowstone's upcoming spin-off, one that reportedly stars Matthew McConaughey and promises to redefine the modern cowboy tale. But how could a man born in the early 1900s link to the events happening over a century later? That's where the story turns from history to legacy. Imagine Spencer Dutton not as a relic of the past, but as the origin of an unspoken bloodline. In 1923, he is painted as a lone wolf, driven more by instinct than obligation. But beneath that stoic veneer is a man capable of deep love, as seen with Alexandra, and fierce loyalty. He was willing to abandon his self-imposed exile to protect the family that had long drifted from his grasp. What if, after returning to Montana, Spencer didn't stay? Perhaps the family conflict, or Alexandra's disillusionment with the Dutton way of life, pushed him to forge a new path. Not out of rebellion, but preservation. A path that led him far from the Yellowstone ranch, to a stretch of land in Texas or New Mexico, a land he could call his own, where the ghosts of the past couldn't follow. A land that would one day become the backdrop for Yellowstone's mysterious spin-off. In this theory, Spencer becomes a sort of original frontier exile, the Dutton who chooses to preserve the code of the West in a purer form, away from the entanglements of politics and power games that define modern-day Montana. He raises a family, perhaps under a different name. Maybe his descendants, wary of the Dutton legacy, change their surname. They grow up with stories of a great-grandfather who fought in a war, wrestled lions in Africa, and carved his own empire from nothing. Fast forward to present day. Enter the mysterious new lead of the spin-off, a man in his late 40s or early 50s, rugged, philosophical, a cowboy poet who walks the line between rancher and outlaw. He's got the Dutton grit, but not the name. Maybe he's never even heard of the Yellowstone. But when events begin to stir in Montana, and whispers of land deals and old enemies surface, he's drawn into a story bigger than himself. That's when the reveal comes, a letter buried in a trunk, or a birth certificate tucked in a Bible. A faded photo of a man who looks eerily like him, Spencer Dutton, rifle in hand, standing next to a young Alexandra. Suddenly, the protagonist realizes he is not just a man trying to survive. He is the living continuation of a legacy he never knew he inherited. And that legacy is calling him home. The beauty of Spencer Dutton's arc is that it was never complete. Unlike Jacob or Kara, Spencer was never fully entrenched in the Yellowstone way of life. He was always on the outside, spiritually and geographically. And that makes him the perfect ancestor for a story about rediscovery, about bridging the past with the present. Taylor Sheridan, the mastermind behind Yellowstone, is known for weaving intricate family sagas that span generations. He doesn't just write about land, he writes about the people tethered to it by blood, duty, and guilt. The spinoff doesn't need to rely on John Dutton's children to carry the story forward. It can reach into the soil of the Dutton legacy and pull out a new tree entirely, one rooted in Spencer's wild heart. Moreover, Spencer's outsider perspective mirrors that of many modern viewers. He's not consumed by corporate greed or political maneuvering. He's raw, instinctual, and focused on survival. That spirit could live on in a new protagonist who embodies the same values. Values that may be in direct opposition to the modern Dutton empire. This angle opens the door for powerful tension. Imagine the McConaughey-led character stepping onto the Yellowstone ranch, meeting the remnants of the original family. The present-day Duttons might see him as a threat, or worse, an echo of the man their ancestors tried to forget. But blood doesn't lie, and neither does the land.